Do you remember it? That feeling of charging across the mud-soaked fields of St. Quentin Scar. The earth-shattering boom of a behemoth arriving to turn the tide of battle. For years, the Battlefield community has been asking, pleading, for a return to that raw, immersive magic we found in Battlefield 1. Well, it looks like the developers have finally listened. The next Battlefield, which many have been calling Battlefield 6, and in fact we now know it to be Battlefield 6, is poised to reclaim that glory. And today we're breaking down exactly how. The road since Battlefield 1 has been a bit rocky. We've seen the franchise experiment, and let's be honest, it wasn't always for the better. The community has been loud and clear about what it misses: the gritty atmosphere, the tactical depth, and the pure, chaotic fun of all-out war. After the divisive reception of Battlefield 2042, which moved away from many of the series' core tenets, the franchise found itself at a crossroads. But the developers have signalled they've taken that feedback to heart, and everything we're seeing about this next instalment points to a deliberate and calculated return to the formula that made Battlefield 1 an undisputed masterpiece. This isn't just another sequel, it feels like a homecoming. Let's start with the literal foundation of any good Battlefield map: the ground, the buildings, and how spectacularly it all blows apart. Battlefield 1 was a masterclass in environmental destruction. It wasn't just a gimmick, it was a core tactical layer. Blowing a hole in a windmill to expose a sniper, collapsing a building to create a new path for your tank, or watching the very ground deform under artillery fire created a dynamic and ever-evolving play space. It made the world feel alive and, more importantly, fragile. The next Battlefield isn't just bringing that back, it's evolving it. In development footage, and developer insights from programs like Battlefield Labs have revealed a much more purposeful and strategic implementation of destruction. While not officially named, some have referred to it as tactical destruction. We've seen job listings from Ripple Effect, one of the studios involved, that explicitly mentioned creating the most realistic and exciting destruction effects in the industry. Through community testing in Battlefield Labs, the developers are refining how this all works, how destruction can be balanced, and how it impacts strategy. They've even discussed how different materials will visually degrade before breaking, and how buildings can apple core as they collapse, leaving their structural skeletons exposed. We're talking about blowing out walls to create new sightlines, collapsing bridges to halt an enemy advance, and truly using the environment as a weapon. This is the evolution of what we loved in Battlefield 1 and previous Battlefields as well. Destruction that isn't just for show, but is a fundamental part of the gameplay loop. Next up, what is Battlefield without scale? Battlefield 1 perfectly captured the feeling of being a single soldier in a vast, sprawling conflict. The 64-player matches on massive maps and the seamless blend of infantry, tanks and aircraft created a sense of organised chaos that felt both epic and personal. It wasn't just the player count, it was the feeling of a living, breathing battlefield. After the experiment with 128-player matches in 2042, the new Battlefield is wisely making the classic 64-player count a core focus. It's not just a step back, it's a recalibration. However, for those who enjoyed the massive scale, reports indicate that a larger player count, up to 128 players, will still be supported on certain maps and modes of the next-gen platforms. Obviously it's only on next-gen, so those reports are probably a bit out of date now. But anyway, the focus is once again on that perfect blend of all-out warfare, intense infantry combat, thrilling aerial dogfights, and strategic vehicle play. But it's the atmosphere that truly sells the scale. Battlefield 1 had maps that felt like real places scarred by war. The new Battlefield is aiming for that same immersive quality, and I'd have to say that playing the beta, it definitely gives that. Especially in maps like Liberation Peak, you really get that sense of fighting in a massive mountain pass area, and it feels like a real place. Now, leaks and official reveals hint at maps with immense detail, where background elements contribute to the sense of a wider conflict, much like the blimps and dreadnoughts that dominate the skies in Battlefield 1. The goal is to create maps that feel alive and are designed purposefully for fun, with clear combat sightlines and strategic objectives. This isn't just a collection of arenas, it's a cohesive world at war, designed to make you feel like part of something much bigger. Perhaps the most celebrated and anticipated change, though, is the full-throated return of the classic 4-class system: Assault, Engineer, Support, and Recon. During a multiplayer reveal, the developers were direct. We heard you loud and clear, you want the class system back. The move directly addresses one of the biggest pain points from Battlefield 2042, the Specialist system, which many felt eroded the squad-based gameplay that is the franchise's heartbeat. Battlefield 1 thrived on its class identity. You knew what role a teammate was playing just by looking at them. Medics rushed to revive, support players laying down fire, assaults breaking the front line, and scouts providing intel. This system wasn't just about limiting loadouts, it was about creating interdependence and teamwork. The new Battlefield is rebuilding this foundation with modern sensibilities, it seems. Each class will have signature gadgets and proficiencies, while some weapons may be shared between classes. A design choice carried over from Battlefield 2042. Each class will have a proficiency with their signature weapon types, unlocking powerful traits. For example, Assault might get combat boosts, while Engineers have an easier time destroying repaired vehicles. The Recon class remains the home for snipers, but now gains added utility with drones and laser designators. And they are also the exclusive owners of C4 for taking out vehicles. This strikes a balance. It reinforces specialization and makes your class choice meaningful, without overly restricting player freedom. It's a clear pivot back to the core identity of Battlefield, squad-based tactical warfare where every role matters. Beyond grand strategy, a shooter lives and dies by how it feels moment to moment. Battlefield 1's gunplay was a masterclass in satisfaction. Its weapons, from bolt-action rifles to early machine guns, had weight and personality. The bullet drop, velocity and recoil felt authentic, and mechanics like the sniper sweet spot rewarded skill in a way that was incredibly satisfying. The new Battlefield is clearly chasing that same tactile satisfaction. Beta gameplay and early reports have described the gunplay as meaty, with weapons that feel unique and impactful. The developers are aiming for a time to kill that is accessible but still has depth, and I'd have to say I enjoyed the time to kill in the beta so far. I think it's spot on. With a launch arsenal reported to feature over 40 weapons, there'll be plenty of weapons for players to master, so plenty of variety. Movement is also getting a more grounded tactical overhaul, while Battlefield 1 refined basics like vaulting. Leaks for the next game have shown more nuanced mechanics. Rumours and leaked footage point to new movement options like sliding and diving to prone, with animations that feel more deliberate and connected to the gritty reality of the battlefield. A philosophy that aligns perfectly with the grounded feeling that made Battlefield 1 so immersive. What truly cemented Battlefield 1 in our memories was its unparalleled atmosphere. A huge part of this was the dynamic weather. A clear day on Amiens could suddenly be choked by thick fog, forcing tense, close-quarters encounters. Rain could lash the trenches of Passchendaele, turning the battlefield into a muddy quagmire. These weren't just visual effects, they were gameplay mechanics that forced teams to adapt on the fly. And if you've played in the fog, you know exactly how much it can change the way you play. The new Battlefield is bringing this philosophy back to the forefront. While specific dynamic weather systems haven't been fully detailed, the focus on changing conditions is clear. But what about the ultimate game changers, the spiritual successors to Battlefield 1's behemoth? The behemoths, the airship, the armoured train and the dreadnought were awe-inspiring spectacles that could dramatically shift the momentum of a losing match. While the studio hasn't confirmed any return of those, and I wouldn't expect any, developers have promised that large game-changing events and assets will be there to create those unforgettable, only in Battlefield moments. The commitment to immersion extends to the sound design, the visual fidelity and the sheer chaos of the battlefield. It's about creating those moments you talk about for weeks, the perfect flank you pulled off under the cover of a sandstorm, the desperate defence of an objective as a skyscraper crumbles around you, the charge alongside your squad as explosions rock the earth. That's the magic of Battlefield. It's clear that DICE and the other studios are not just making a new game, they're trying to rebuild a relationship with a passionate community. They're listening, the return to the class system, the focus on meaningful destruction, the modern setting. These are all direct responses to years of fan feedback. But now I want to hear from you. What was your most memorable moment from Battlefield 1? Are you hoping for a spiritual successor to a specific map like Amiens or Monte Grappa? And what are you most excited to see in the next Battlefield? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Anyway, the next Battlefield is shaping up to be more than just another game in the series. It feels like a statement, like a rebirth. It's an acknowledgement of what made the franchise great and a deliberate effort to recapture the lightning in a bottle. By bringing back and evolving the massive scale destruction, the immersive maps, the distinct gunplay and the absolute necessity of squad-based gunplay. The new Battlefield is directly invoking the spirit of Battlefield 1. I'm seeing a cautious optimism in the community, and for good reason. We've been let down before, but what we've seen is looking good. The developers seem to understand what was lost, and they're taking clear, decisive steps to bring it back. This is their chance to get fans back on board and remind everyone why this franchise is so special. From everything we've seen so far, it looks like they might just pull it off. If you enjoyed this breakdown and you want to stay up to date with all the latest on the new Battlefield, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.
Fast, move decisive, dagger on my 6.
Send it.
And I'll go back.